A river is meant to be a lifeline. But what happens when it's clogged with sewage, industrial waste, and even human poop? That's the grim reality of the Ganga, one of India's holiest rivers. People worship it, bathe in it, yet it's dangerously polluted. And do you know what UP Chief Minister Adityanath had to say about it?
संगम का जल स्नान करने लायक भी है और आचमन करने लायक भी है.
Yes, the Ganga is pure, so pure that you can drink from it. And anyone who says otherwise, well, they're just trying to defame the sacred Kumbh or the Ganga. And of course, they're all paid by George Soros.
सुअरों को गंदगी मिली.
सुअरों को गंदगी मिली.
But think about this. If the river was truly pristine, why has the government spent 13,000 crores in cleaning it? And why are they still throwing money at it? Look, Adityanath isn't the only one downplaying pollution. Many politicians, including Narendra Modi, have dismissed environmental concerns in the past. At one point, Modi was even a climate change denier.
ये climate change नहीं हुआ है, हम change हो गए हैं.
Ridiculous? Absolutely. But it's no joking matter. Because here's the thing, when leaders live in denial, we all pay the price. Heat waves kill thousands every year, smog cuts short lives, and flash floods wipe out homes and families. Modi has ever since changed his stance, but denial at the very top has real-world consequences. But here's the question, has India's pollution really reduced? Is Adityanath right about the Ganga? Let me explain. An average episode of Let Me Explain runs between 10 to 14 minutes. Now that's the time you trust us with every single week. And we don't take it lightly. We spend days researching, scripting, shooting and editing to bring you our very best. Because if you're giving us your time, we owe you our best work. But here's the deal. We don't take money from politicians or big corporations. There are no shady deals here and no brought to you by nonsense. That means we rely entirely on you. Now, thousands of you watch our show every single week, but how many of you subscribe? If you want us to keep decoding the noise, we need your support. Just 500 rupees a month, that's a small amount, but that can keep us going. So scan the QR code on your screen and become a News Minute and Newslaundry subscriber right away. Or you can click the link in the description below. I will be reading out emails from our viewers and subscribers at the end of the show. And don't forget, a new episode of Let Me Explain drops in every Saturday. Now back to what we were talking about. Now here's the problem with politicians like Adityanath and the governments they run. They refuse to admit that pollution is a problem. And let me tell you how. The UP government says the Ganga has a superpower to cleanse itself. They even cited a study by an award-winning scientist. Impressive, right? Except that his specialization is making pearls. The UP government released a statement quoting Padma Shri awardee scientist Ajay Kumar Sonkar. The government says Sonkar collected water samples from 5 major bathing ghats, including Sangam Nose, which is the heart of the Mahakumbh. This spot is crucial. It's where the Ganga, Yamuna and the mythical Saraswati meet in Prayagraj. It's also, by the way, the site of the devastating stampede. The lab apparently found no bacterial growth in these samples. Even the pH level of the water stayed the same, it seems. This even after millions of people bathing in the river for long. But there is a small issue with the study. It was neither peer-reviewed nor published in any scientific journal. So how do we know about the study's existence? It is on Sonkar's own YouTube page. Dr. Sonkar conducted an unmonitored experiment on water samples from the Ganga that Dr. Sonkar collected. Now, why did he do this experiment? Because the Central Pollution Control Board released a report that didn't sit well with the UP government. The report found that the water at the Sangam and 6 other locations had high levels of biochemical oxygen demand. What does it mean? It's a clear sign of pollution. It means that the water has a lot of decaying organic matter. Typically, for river water, if the BOD level is less than 3 milligrams a litre, it's considered safe for bathing. And according to CPCB, the water at Sangam was safe for bathing when the Mahakumbh began. That's on Jan 13, 2025. Even then, the BOD level was at 3.94 milligrams per litre. That's just over the safe levels for bathing. Over the next few days, it rose steadily. And by the morning of Feb 19, it spiked to 5.29 milligrams per litre. But that's not all. The water also had fecal coliform, or in other words, human poop, and that too 13 times above the safe limit for bathing. For drinking, the water should not have any E. coli. The CPCB's findings became big news. The NGT called out the UP government for failing to provide enough details on fecal coliform and other water quality parameters. And ta-da, a day later, the UP government came out with its press release. Dr. Sonkar's study also found that the Ganga water contains 1100 types of bacteriophages. Now, what does that mean? These are viruses that can destroy bacteria. The government believes that no matter how polluted the Ganga is, these viruses can help it clean itself. Now, this finding that the Ganga can self-purify is not new. The NGT mentioned this in a 2017 judgment, where it even cited ancient texts like the Charaka Samhita, which calls Ganga pure and sacred, claiming it can keep germs and bacteria away. The NGT also mentioned a number of studies. The National Botanical Research Institute in Lucknow confirmed that the Ganga water has an antibacterial effect on E. coli. But here's the thing, it is not unique to Ganga. Rivers in general can purify themselves, and faster the river flows, the more oxygen it can carry, which helps break down organic waste. So essentially, any river with a decent flow has some self-purification powers. It might also be likely that Ganga is slightly more effective than other rivers in this aspect. But there's a catch. The self-purification abilities of the Ganga, like many other rivers in India, are at a huge risk. Excessive amounts of water is being used for drinking, irrigation, and power generation. Ganga's water flow, especially in dry seasons, has dropped significantly. In places like Rishikesh and Prayagraj, the river almost stops flowing during winters and summers. The sewage and wastewater continues to keep pouring in. And it's not just the Ganga. According to a study by the CPCB in 2022, more than half of India's 605 rivers are polluted. Even in the south, the situation is not starkly different. The Belandur Lake in Bengaluru, the Kallai River in Kozhikode, Adiyar in Tamil Nadu, Godavari and Krishna in Andhra and Telangana, all are heavily polluted. It's not just the rivers, our air is also polluted and is becoming worse every single day. So what do we do about all this? Because our politicians don't exactly seem to inspire confidence.
किसी ने सच कहा कि महाकुंभ में जिसने जो तलाशा उसको वह मिला, गिद्धों को केवल घास मिली, सुअरों को गंदगी मिली, सनातन की सुंदरता आखिर समाजवादी और वामपंथियों को कैसे नजर आएगी?
Hey, Adityanath isn't the only one brushing off pollution. He's got plenty of company. Like Prakash Javadekar, a former environment minister who claimed that there's no link between pollution and shortening of life expectancy.
The Indian studies conducted have not shown a direct correlation of shortening of life because of pollution.
Or this BJP leader, Anil Vij. Now, he'd said that there's no need to fear pollution. It only affects people who consume alcohol or smoke cigarettes. And remember when ADMK leader and Minister Sellur Raju thought that the solution to saving water was thermocol? He thought that a 10 lakh rupee worth thermocol blanket could stop a dam from losing water to evaporation. He, of course, became an instant meme. But sadly, it's a textbook example of how little our politicians understand environmental issues. As climate change activist Disha Ravi points out, our political parties view environmental concerns as one-off issues which can be resolved with ad hoc policies. India is one of the most climate vulnerable countries in the world. We face extreme heat, water shortages, and floods and pollution. The World Bank estimates that climate-related losses have cost us 8.5% of our GDP. That's $221 billion every single year. Climate change impacts everyone, but yet climate action isn't a major political issue. The BJP and the Congress manifestos in 2024 do acknowledge climate concerns, but both had no real roadmap or any kind of bold action plans. 83 of the world's 100 most polluted cities are in India, including New Delhi, which is the most polluted capital. Environmental issues affect public health, livelihood, and even economic stability. Climate change also worsens social inequalities. While privileged groups can cope better, marginalized communities, especially lower caste groups, face the harshest consequence. Until climate action becomes a political priority, India will continue to bear the cost of inaction. There definitely does seem to be some political consciousness now. In 2021, Modi announced a 5-pronged action plan.
मैं भारत की ओर से इस चुनौती से निपटने के लिए 5 अमृत तत्व रखना चाहता हूं, पंचामृत की सौगात देना चाहता हूं। पहला, भारत 2030 तक अपनी नॉन फोसिल एनर्जी कैपेसिटी को 500 गीगावाट तक पहुंचाएगा।
There's been some shift, but there's a wide gap between what is being announced and what the actions are. Let me explain this a bit. Climate change is largely driven by burning fossil fuels, with coal being the worst offender. At global summits, Modi promotes renewable energy.
भारत 2030 तक अपनी 50% एनर्जी रिक्वायरमेंट्स रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी से पूरी करेगा।
But back home, his government keeps on expanding coal. In the fiscal year of 2023, India's subsidies for coal was approximately 50,000 crores. And this was a 17% increase from 2022. In 24, coal-fired power plants generated a record 73.4% of India's total electricity. And as of early 2025, coal is still India's main source of electricity. So you see how despite what is being announced, politics and economics play a big role. And coal is the dominant fuel backed by powerful companies. And the government also prioritizes keeping electricity cheap. Let me quickly give you another example. In 2014, the Modi government launched the 20,000 crore Namami Gange program. This was, of course, to clean the Ganga. In 2022-2023, Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh used only 7% of the budgets allotted for them. India's climate progress is rated highly insufficient by the Climate Action Tracker. The point I'm making is this. While grand statements have been made time and again and lofty goals have been set, on ground, things are not necessarily moving in the right direction. The solution isn't as simple as just throwing quick fixes at the issue. For starters, we need better waste management. It's about creating systems that stop pollution at the source. And what we need is thoughtful, science-based action. And more importantly, we need political will, not people in power using pseudoscience as the guide for policy framework. Because if things don't change, coal and vehicle emissions will continue choking our cities like Delhi. Heat waves will keep getting worse and more frequent. And flash floods will continue wreaking havoc on our landscapes. Do think about this and do write to me at pooja@thenewsminute.com. Tell me what you think about our politicians. Are they doing enough? Do they even have their heads wrapped around this mammoth issue called pollution? And as I promised, I will be reading a couple of your emails. Pratik Saravanan writes, this week's episode was crucial for non-Tamils to understand the reality behind the anti-Hindi movement, especially as it remains relevant today with the union government denying education funds. He's given his views on how this policy has panned out. And he says a simple solution is to organize states based on regional languages and ensure governance happens in that language, while the union government operates in English. This two-language system would preserve linguistic diversity without imposing an additional burden. Thank you for highlighting the issue. Your commitment to honest journalism is deeply appreciated and you have our continued support. Now, Pratik isn't just writing to me and supporting me in this form. He also says he's a long-time subscriber of the News Minute. So be like Pratik. If you're not a subscriber, become one right away. Hira Lohia says, "Hi Pooja, you were joyful and chipper in today's show. Well done." Thank you, Hira. It is emails from people like you that actually make me joyful, so keep those emails coming.